Mike, Steve, thanks so much for sitting down with me here at the American Seed Trade Association's Vegetable and Flower Seed Conference. You guys have had a busy couple days.
Yes, we have, certainly.
Yes. First, I want you to tell me your position so that way our readers know. And then maybe like two things that are just top of mind for you. So Mike, I'll let you start.
So I'm the National Sales Manager for flour, and I cover the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Issues for us are probably shipping to the southern border states, and also getting new varieties and new genetics off the ground in a very busy market.
Yeah. And Steve?
I'm General Manager of American Takii. We're the subsidiary of Takii and Company Limited. We're based in Salinas, California. I would tend to say that probably one of our major issues is trade as well. Exporting down into Mexico can be a concern. There's new viruses that are popping up, and we're dealing with these virus problems here at ASTA. There's a workshop tomorrow on emerging diseases that we're going to be dealing with this new tomato brown fruit rugose virus. So that's a big thing for us.
Yes.
Probably one of our other major concerns, or should I say strategic directions, is increasing our R&D focus. We're trying to do a broader assessment of our R&D capabilities. We're trying to put more products into more locations for screening and actual breeding. And with that, of course, we're looking into all of our geographic areas in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and Central America. So we're really looking forward to expanding our scope of the R&D engine of Takii and Company.
That's awesome. So, when you look at your footprint today and you look at, where you want to be 5 years from now, do you have a vision of, what that will look like?
Yes, definitely. Our parent company, we attended a conference back in December, both Mike and I, and the company has a very focused and very moderately aggressive strategy to not only achieve growth within the next 5 years, but even for the next 25 years, which is a target that will be hopefully achieved probably after I'm gone from the company. So, but they're looking at different increments and time frame milestones to be able to put money into R&D, look at what the return on investment will be as we get into these different products and different regions that we're going to be investing in for that purpose.
But with that, expanding your R&D footprint, what's driving that? Is it the need to diversify your locations? Is it the need to just grow that component of the business, or
Really all of the above, and really part of it is to remain relevant. You have major companies such as the Bayers and the BASFs and the Kim Chinas, and they turn around a very significant portion of their revenue into R&D. And so if we're to remain relevant in this day and age, we need to up our turnaround into R&D to be able to, I think, not just catch up, but hopefully stay ahead in certain areas where we have a advantage over those companies.
Mm-hmm. And from kind of the innovation side of things on the plant breeding, what are you able to harness some of the newest technologies and plant breeding methods? And
yeah, marker-assisted breeding is definitely part of our profile. We're really investing in marker-assisted breeding. We're entering into agreements or different types of relationships with universities, be it University of California, looking at University of Tokyo, Wageningen in the Netherlands, and really as a part of the KeyGene consortium, we are also looking at other new innovative plant breeding technologies.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little longer term for us, but the short term is marker-assisted breeding.
Yeah. And are we seeing that on the flower side as well, or just on the vegetable side?
We benefit from obviously we're a vegetable company first, but often the windfall comes from any of these technologies that they do develop, and they take their flower business very, very seriously. And so in this, I think, a generational shift that's coming for our company, they've recognized that they want to participate, and they've recognized what they have to do to get these things done. So it's very impressive.
well, for flowers, unlike for vegetables, you don't necessarily have the concerns over the consumer concerns because you're not directly eating the flower. And when you look at some of the new plant breeding methods and the regulatory landscape.
No, I'd say not. I think particularly on the pot and bedding side where the availability of product has expanded greatly. I do worry about getting new consumers or new young gardeners for sure, but there are programs in our industry to address that. The same can be said for the floral side, where major retailers have introduced floral products into their stores and have done a great job of expanding the availability of cut flowers to the consumer. And I think that's where our serious growth is at right now.
Mm-hmm. That used to be on the downside, didn't it, for quite a while?
Well, the industry left the United States more or less, and we had the proud that hung on there, and survived even a generational shift there, and then revived itself over the last 20 years. And it's really been something to watch. They're learning to coexist with the suppliers from the South, from Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, and they've managed to find a way to survive, grow, and make it an interesting product to the consumer. We're benefiting from that.
On the flower side, I recently had a trip to the Netherlands, and sustainability on the cut flowers was a big deal. Do you guys have a sustainability plan or kind of a goal that is around sustainable agriculture or being environmentally conscious?
Yes, in fact, at this conference that we had in Japan back in December, a lot of what we were talking about is breeding for the market, knowing that global warming is on our horizon. So we're looking at breeding varieties that are more heat tolerant, more drought tolerant, more disease tolerant. So sustainability for us is if our grower customers can raise a crop and hopefully make some money at it, that's sustainable because they'll be back next year to purchase seed from us.
Right. So, everybody's got to make money.
Yeah. So we have to address the changes in our environment, and take that very seriously because things are definitely a little bit different than they were 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we look at consumers and we look at kind of the wanting to get back to the grower, wanting to get back to that end point with videos and to learn about, where things came from, are you guys doing anything to facilitate that at all?
That particular piece, no. That tends to be more in the hands of produce marketers, people that are actually growing these crops. They're going from this whole seed to fork type thing, and our seed, of course, is a component of that. But we are looking ahead towards consumers in terms of more nutritious vegetables. We are engaging in a development of a phyto-rich program in Japan, and we'll be expanding some of that into the United States within the year to come.
So what is that?
Well, we have some tomatoes, for example, that have higher lycopene and also a different taste profile, what they call umami taste. And so we're doing some agronomic trials. We want to make sure that the tomatoes will be productive before we go on this full-scale program to introduce them to consumers. But just one of the many different things we're looking at that we're trying to extend into the marketplace, be it grower sustainability or even consumer benefits.
Mm-hmm. And what else are consumers telling you that you're kind of taking note of and working toward?
It's a two-sided story where I think the industry is, over the 30 years, particularly on the flower side, has tried to communicate much more to the consumer. I fear, though, that as people get older and we get new and younger gardeners, that we may not be doing enough yet to make them understand that gardening is easy. It's good for the environment, it's good for them, it's good for quality of life. And it's still, I think there's a lot of work to be done there. We take advantage of the resources in our part of the industry by utilizing the grower networks and the retail networks. And we rely heavily on the retailer to communicate that very thing, to their customer, that consumer. So we try to contribute that in some way in our marketing messages, with our breeding. So, but still, I think a long way to go. I think food is another category where it's much easier to do that. Flowers not so much.
Yeah.
We're looking at flavor. If we can produce better flavor products like tomatoes or melons or what have you, that's we don't want to lose sight of that. Too many products have gone over to the side of shelf life, and in that trade-off, you've lost flavor. Right? So we want to do all we can do to put flavor back into certain product categories.
I would say too that I failed to mention this, but the locally grown movement, I think, really caught on over the last 5 years or so, which it took many years to get it established. And I think that has benefited the consumer a great deal because they bought into that. They're looking for local sources. They're looking for organic, something that's a little bit more wholesome. And I think in the years to come, that's going to be very important, organic sources of seed and or food. So, yeah.
And are you dealing with organics?
Not much as a company right now. Steve probably tell you a little bit more on the vegetable side.
Yeah, we do have just 2 or 3 organic varieties. A lot of our varieties are used for organic purposes. We sell untreated seed, which is acceptable to the organic community. But there will probably come a time where there's more demand for organically produced seeds that are produced on organic ground without pesticides. And as our customers come to us and say this is something they would like, we might definitely consider putting aside certain types of production for organic. So we have to pay it heed. It's a good market. It's consumption of organic produce has grown 10 to 20% in any given year. So, but that's not to say that 100% of that is organic seed, but it's still a segment we should pay attention to.
And a big topic here at the conference has been controlled environment agriculture. Do you have any exploratory research in that area, or are you doing anything there?
Yeah, a lot of our flower product development is in protected culture environments. Same thing goes with vegetable. We're putting more and more emphasis in products that can be produced inside of a greenhouse. Parthenocarpic peppers and parthenocarpic cucumbers. All of these products produce fruits without producing seeds. They don't need to be pollinated by bees or anything like that. And so that's something that consumers like, and it's also a greenhouse play that gives higher productivity. Same thing with tomatoes and many different types of products. So protected culture is a growth segment. It helps extend the season in areas which might otherwise have very short seasons.
And kind of bringing it back to trade, or bringing it back to shipping seed. And you mentioned seed treatments earlier. Are you doing anything unique with the seed to make it easier for growers to plant?
We ourselves don't pellet seed or provide different types of coatings. Those are technologies that specialized companies engage in. The Germains and Incotex and Seed Dynamics and CamTurters of the world are specialized at that. And so we prefer to focus on the genetics and let the seed physiology companies focus on those other aspects of providing a higher, maybe improving the vigor of seed, or just the general plantability by putting a little pellet around it, making it easier to plant.
The U.S. Customs and Border Control has some representatives here, and so I was talking with them earlier. What are some of the biggest hurdles you have in moving seed, whether it's domestically or internationally?
A large volume of sunflower seeds are produced in Mexico or Colombia. Not that it's a huge hurdle, but sometimes the importation into those countries can get expensive. It's not a matter of being able to do it. It's a matter of paperwork and cost. And while we see now, though, the imports into the U.S. are much easier and much faster, the end product is being delivered to the U.S. into Miami or somewhere like that very easily. So sometimes it does make you say, a little bit. I wish it was a little bit easier, but all in all, we do get materials down there and we do it quite well. And as far as that, we see a trend more into drop shipping to our larger growers, even some smaller growers now within the United States. The broker system is not inventorying seeds as much as they used to. They don't care to, they don't want to. So we find ourselves becoming more of a shipping company than, a drop ship company than any time before. Mm-hmm. So it's okay, but we're gonna have to look at that in the future too. How are we gonna have inventories closer so they're easier to get there faster? Because it's all about speed and timing.
Help me visualize that a little bit in terms of the amount of seed that you would be shipping. Is it something that would be in small packets or containers, or is this like truckloads of?
For the flower side, it's much smaller units as compared to vegetable, where you would ship hundreds of pounds versus thousands of seeds.
Yeah, we ship 20-pound buckets. We ship certain products by the pallet on LTLs and that type of thing. So, the volume piece is a little bit different. We're, like I said, going a lot by LTL or UPS, 30-pound packages, that type of thing. Whereas they can put things in envelopes and send them via courier, DHL and FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
So what it's making us do, though, is we're going through and evaluating our entire listing to weed out those underperforming crops that simply are just not going to fit that bill. And so if we can minimize and focus on the products that we do carry, that we know that we need to get that, that shipping size up. The more seed you're shipping, obviously, the better that it is. So that's one of the things that we're trying to adjust now, just to compensate for this, dropping seed, in all 50 states of the United States.
If you had a billboard for consumers, what would it say? And I'll let Steve go first, and then Mike, I'll have you take the question.
One of the overriding thoughts of the company that's been traditional and ingrained in the company's DNA is Takii seed equals quality seed. And we have very high quality standards for germination and overall seed quality. So we're doing our best. That's our mantra, to be able to provide the best quality seed and certainly the genetics that match the environment of the grower.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And Mike?
Mine was centered around supporting your local FFA group. A lot of our local communities are attaching greenhouses to their high schools or middle schools. And I got to say, that's where I see the new consumer coming from. And if we can start there, and if we could have, I think about all the money that's spent in marketing, to older folks and millennials. I think, you just put a partial amount of that money into supporting a local school or something like that. It would make a bigger difference than all the marketing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, teach your children well.
Yeah, and that's huge for us. We support ag education initiatives in California, and it's having that as part of our program to create just a higher awareness level amongst the youth. We're engaging in another ag education program involving interns that are either just out of high school or going to college now. So we're trying to promote agriculture all we can.
So the biggest trend for us right now is our small farmers. Mm-hmm. So they're doing cattle farming, they're doing row crops, they're doing some cut flowers. They're just returning back to something that was a little bit more natural. Mm-hmm. So if I would choose to support anything, it's to support that local effort to teach your children to farm and cultivate crops.
Yeah. Did you both sit in on the general session earlier today? Not this morning. So one of the questions that I had, and I should have raised my hand and asked the speaker, but I'm going to ask you instead, was we had one gentleman yesterday talking about, and it had to do with kind of young farmers and consumers and traceability and transparency. But it was that you've got more people coming into the investment space, more investors wanting to buy farms and
private equity.
Yes, like talking about buying Bolt House.
Yes. And
buying some other brands and buying orchards. And then you have that conflicting with the whole go local movement. Mm-hmm. And people wanting to really know where their foods come from And so I just see those as like not at all being complementary, but more competing and being a source of frustration.
Well, I know in terms of food safety and food traceability, you would tend to think that a larger company would have a more sophisticated means of following and tracing the food from, again, literally the field to the fork. But time and time again, I scratch my head when I see some of these food safety alerts come up, recalls and whatnot, and they have a hard time tracing exactly where the produce came from. And on the other side, you have the small farms, but if they're too small, they don't have to necessarily report any and follow any of the food safety practices the larger companies have to fulfill. The reporting requirements are very strong and strict for large companies, and a small guy that's got 2 acres,
and slides under the radar.
What's he irrigating with? What's he fertilizing with? And so there's a lot of rationalization of regulations that I think that have to happen, and certainly food traceability is, I think, very important.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a problem, they should be able to go right back to the source.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of gray area in the transit of food from the time it leaves the grower, packer, shipper, or the small home farmer, roadside farmer, to where it ends up in a supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
It's co-blended with a lot of things. And
yeah.
There's still things that need to be done in that post-harvest chain.
Gotcha. So that's where it was kind of going towards like the blockchain technology, and how does that apply to the seed industry, and can it get from end to point A to Z, so to speak, with the seed companies being A.
Seed industry is a model for traceability, because we have to keep our genetics pure, and we have to know where the seed was produced, and if we have any disease problems, we need to be able to identify that. Traceability has been inherent in the seed industry, and certainly, as we see in the issues, if we have a problem with the seed, we know exactly where it was produced, where it came from, who produced it, what the inspections were for it, where the stock seed came from. That's why it's a mystery to us that there's so many problems with the fresh produce industry sometimes with traceability, because they have infinitely more resources than the seed industry, and it's one of our important core values. It's traceability and variety identification throughout the whole production chain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I know time is getting short, and so I want to ask one more question, and that is that what gets you out of bed in the morning? Like, what are you most excited to work on?
Well, what gets me out of bed is my relationships with the people that I work with and I work for, and that's a mix of people at the office plus my grower contacts and my broker contacts. I think I have an obligation, to myself and to my company to show up every day and make sure things are running smoothly, and so. The company itself, as Steve mentioned in our meetings in December, I came away so impressed with where they're going, and I felt really reinvigorated by what I saw. So I think for me, and particularly where I've been, there seems to be a way forward, and that's interesting to me, and that keeps me, involved and keeps me motivated.
Awesome.
Well, every day's a challenge, and yet no challenges are considered insurmountable. And we have the support from our parent company, and the company is being very strategic in the long term in initiating the things that we plan on doing here in the future as we try to expand and provide a better product for our consumers. And so it's those challenges and the people we work with and the opportunity to hopefully contribute a little bit better to the well-being of consumers and farmers and our extended agricultural community is always highly motivating. I've been in the business 35 years now, and hopefully I can stick around for another 8 or 10 before I get put out to pasture.
Excellent. So, well, thanks to you both for being here and taking the time to sit down and chat with me for a little bit.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Yes.